All right. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Town of Superior Board of Trustees meeting for June 22nd, 2009. And Phyllis, if you'd call the roll.
Sure. Mayor Andrew Muckle.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Francisco Matas. Trustees Joe Cirilli.
Here.
Dana D'Souza. Here. Delia Gregoris.
Here.
Eric Rosenfeld.
Present.
Deborah Williams.
Here.
Town Manager Scott Randall.
Here.
Town Attorney Kendra Carberry.
Here.
And
And I'd just like to pass along from Trustee Skumatz that she's would love to be here at the meeting, but she's not in the country, so the reason why she's here. Yeah. With that, let's move to item number 3, approval of the agenda. Any changes to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. By Trustee Rosenfeld, second by Trustee D'Souza. Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 4, presentations. We don't have any this evening. Item number 5, public comment on consent agenda and non-agenda items, and name and address if you wouldn't mind.
Are you going to stay in? Gladys Forshey, 404 Southard Avenue. Well, you're going to be very unhappy because I'm here tonight to discuss the recall. It is time to get some clear facts stated. And we residents would like to have you hear what we have to say and answer our question at the end of what I'm going to say. This is no CAC comments. It is no spousal email replies. It is residents. And we had that right through State Statute 314502A1 to state on the petition as to what our reason was for the recall. The recall is not dead. When it clearly understood that I initiated it, I have no problem of doing that, but several residents rallied behind me. This was not a self-interest issue here, self-interest issue there. And we want you to totally understand that, all of you. The recall of you, Mr. Mayor, and Lisa, Dana, and Eric was done because residents are irate regarding the town manager, the public works director, agitated with the Parks and Rec director regarding multiple issues. We residents have to go through the 4 of you before we can get action regarding staff. Because you won't follow the laws, rules, regulations, resolutions, guidelines, you won't clip the wings of staff, you won't listen to what we residents have to say on some issues, meet at problematic sites and work with residents regarding the issues with the facts. That's the reason the 4 of you were recalled. State Statute 314102 states that, Mr. Mayor, you are responsible for the town board and the staff. The process was not followed. The process of the recall was not followed by the town clerk. To make a long review short, because of my 5-minute time period that is supposed to be allowed for this sort of thing, there are different ways to handle the scenario. Now, these three suggestions have come up to maybe wake you up and talk to us. One is that a meeting regarding the recall issue can be held at the town hall with the mayor, town board, and town of Superior residents. No town manager, no public works director, no parks and rec director, no town attorney, no town clerk to discuss all these issues. 2, the mayor and the 3 town board can resign now. Or 3rd, the town manager and public works director can be relieved of their duties instantaneously. Now, a packet of information has been prepared to present to the Boulder County District Attorney regarding this recall situation. So the residents want to know if you care to discuss the scenario regarding the three above choices, or if we residents await for the Boulder County DA's review and revision, or review and decision. So it's your choice. You give us an answer to our question.
I don't know if anybody wants to make any comments. I don't have any comments to make, I guess.
I'll just say I respectfully disagree. I disagree with statements that you've made in the past, and I have been available at many different meetings for the public to come and talk. Also, I have my email and my phone for people who care to call. I personally have met with people about all around Original Town with issues, and you weren't there, so I don't know what else to say, but I do
Now,
not...
right
no,
there-
This was my moment to speak, please. I don't care to resign at this time. I have, in all good faith, fulfilled this office that I was elected to, and I will wait for whatever other information you have to bring forward to us.
Well, I think it's clear why this recall is being mounted, and it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with just trying to force the board to do things that you guys want. So it's not true that you have to come through me to get the staff to do anything. You have to go through the whole board. So the fact that only certain board members were targeted doesn't quite make sense to me. But I have nothing else to say. I'm not going to agree to do anything under the threat of a recall.
Okay, as I stated, it is not me personally, Dana, it is the residents, and so you are labeling me, and that is one thing that we decided that we was going to do this so that it was clearly understood that it is not one particular person. So we'll wait for the Boulder County DA's decision then.
I have one thing I'd like to say. The way you worded one statement in the fact that three of us don't matter, I mean, that's kind of how I took that
No,
as.
that's not true. We selected the ones that we felt that needed to be removed from the town board because two of you are new on the town board, and there is a state statute that you have to be in office for a certain time period, which you're over that time period before you can be recalled.
Well, I mean, you're implying that four have the majority vote and three do not. That's
No,
my
that's
impression that I'm getting off of it.
That's not...
And I kind of take offense to that because I am a vote. I can make a vote and I can make a difference on the board.
I understand that. No, that was not the voting. We understand there are votes. The reason that I just stated is the reason, the state statute is the reason that we picked the ones that we did.
I understand that, but what I'm going to get to my final point is that if you're going to recall four, then you might as well recall all seven. Because everyone has their own individual vote. We are not beholden to one another in our vote, in our decisions, in our opinions. So in that regard, I feel belittled to the point where I don't matter on this board.
That is not the reason that those four were chosen.
And
That is
I'm
not the reason at all. And, you know, that is the reason that this statement was made was because of the fact we wanted it clearly as to why and who and the conditions and everything. So,
But the things that you're asking is a vote among the seven of us, and if only four of those can make those votes that you're asking for, then the three of us don't matter. I mean, you want the Public Works Director fired, well, that would be a vote of all seven of us.
I'm sorry, it wouldn't.
just
Just for clarity. it's
I'm
the
sorry.
acting manager, but, yeah. The board the board appoints
The four of
two.
us have to push it, is what she's threatening.
I know, but you can't ask for
Yes.
that. The point is, all seven have to make a decision. It's not 4 out of 7. There's not 3 that have no say or no vote.
okay,
Can I say?
as I say, the reason that it was decided the way it was because of the state statute. And, you know, anything else was not taken into consideration.
Trustee Gregorus.
Well, I also have to say that it's not that
the four that you've mentioned vote as a block, and the other three of us vote against. The last time I just read the minutes from the last meeting that I was present, and the vote on one particular item was 5-2, and Trustee Skumas and myself voted against it. So in every vote, sometimes it's unanimous, sometimes it varies, but it's not like there's a block that there's four of them and the three of us have a different vote. So I agree with Trustee Williams on that. I don't understand it, I guess. To me, a recall would be something that's egregiously harming the town of Superior, that it's causing great harm to the majority of the citizens of the town of Superior, and there's nothing that anybody on this board has done that rises to that level. We have difference of opinion. I feel like we're respectful with one another. We try to be respectful towards you. We try to listen. We don't always agree, but I mean, if somebody committed fraud, I don't know, I can't even imagine what a recall would be. It would have to be something awful that would happen in this town. And I don't see that has happened in my tenure here the last 3 years. I don't see that. So I don't understand it, I guess. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't agree with it. So.
Okay. Additional public comments on consent agenda or non-agenda items?
George Kuttner, 7520 West Cold Creek. I started to write you a letter, but I didn't get it sent. Me and the computer still playing with each other, learning. But at any rate, I would like to know, I didn't hear nothing from staff, I didn't get no phone calls from Judy or anything, when they're going to repair their warranty work, or if it is going to be warranty work, or are we paying for it, on the few dips or bumps or however, they're just short of. I feel there's safety issues that they need to be fixed immediately, like the one in Rock Creek Park we did. It's been 6 weeks. I haven't got an answer. And if I was supposed to write you a letter so that I could get an answer tonight, so maybe I've got it. Can get an answer tonight.
Let's see. So the issue that you're talking about is Coal Creek Drive, that there's been issues that have been patched, and there was an assumption of not patched, but
Mr. Kuppner's complaint of 4 weeks ago, not 6 weeks ago, was I was required to make some repairs, some warranty repairs on Rock Creek Parkway. Why aren't other contractors held to the same standards? And he raised two particular points. Colton, just east of McCaslin, and another one, Rock Creek Parkway, across from Safeway, about the intersection with Tyler. I've received a report this morning from RG Engineering, our construction supervisor, saying that Quality Paving was going to attend to both of those sites tomorrow. There was a third site that we'd already had on our list, which is at the intersection of Torrey's Peak and Indiana, that also needed to be attended to, and they're going to have crews in town tomorrow. But again, we learned of it sometime before noon today.
But there's also been issues about an overlay on Coal Creek Drive in original town because they've had to patch things to replace them. And
whether that was going to be under warranty or done.
Right. So I think that the town has ongoing issues with that.
The warranty on Coal Creek, which was a project that was done in 2006. This other work was done in 2007 and 2008, the three locations that I described earlier. Coal Creek was completed in 2006. The warranty has lapsed on that particular project. However, the town, as I've shared with the board, does continue to hold the performance bond for that particular contractor because it continues to be an ongoing dispute. We're not happy with the work. And whether we call the bond, perform the work by somebody else, and attach the performance bond to pay for that work, or whether the contractor ultimately agrees to come to town. I'd also go back and remind the board that you've recently had some bids that were submitted by that vendor when he was the low bidder, and he wasn't awarded the work. We weren't happy with the work that you did the last time you were in town. We're not going to give you more. So we're trying to do it amiably if we can. If not, we still have the opportunity of attaching the performance bond.
Here, it's not coming out of our tax dollar quite yet.
Yep.
It's reasonable.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Additional public comment on consent agenda or non-agenda items.
I'm Bob McCool, 312 West Coal Creek Drive. Just wanted to request whether or not the work sessions could start to be videotaped and put on the web. We are really enjoying the town board meetings on the web since we don't have Comcast cable, and there's a lot of things that are discussed at the work sessions that I know decisions aren't made, but they definitely there are decisions or discussions made that lead towards decisions, and if there's any way those could be broadcast on the web.
I think it's an interesting thought, and it's actually on my list of things to talk about tonight, so I agree.
And it is
Based on
on
the
my
discussion we just had last, work session, it would make sense too.
Sandy Pennington, 3002 Mike, and we didn't even coordinate. On my set of requests is to add the work session agenda to the website with the town board agenda, so those people who are not on the CAC get the full agenda. In addition to having it taped, I believe we should have a full set of minutes that appears alongside the town meeting minutes. In trying to do the timeline of the roundabout, critical part of that discussion occurred in the October 27 work session, so anybody who wondered what that sort of nebulous, anybody who got the work session agenda, which would have been a minor subset, but wanted to follow the discussion on it, had no way to follow that discussion. So I second Bob's motion.
Can I ask a question, Cindy?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Susan.
I just had a question. What did you think of the agendas now? Because I know that was one of the suggestions you had as well,
Right.
or something that you agreed with to add more. Was that helpful?
Yes, absolutely. Adding, you're referring to the extra note of detail?
On the agenda.
Yes, because in going back in time on this roundabout issue, I do believe the reason there was a certain amount of shock among the community is that it appeared on the agenda items as a trailhead
Yeah,
rather than
just that, yeah.
either intersection or trailhead. It was very late in the game where the word roundabout started being publicly attached to the discussion.
But I meant from
And
this
if
point,
that
was
note
this
had
helpful for you?
gone back in time, I think we would have had that word roundabout. Not to belabor the point, but in terms of organization, on the web, the Town of Superior website is really the go-to source for any information you need. I would actually like to have agendas, a separate item, from minutes, so that I didn't have to go into an agenda and then hunt for whichever minutes might be attached to that agenda. I'd like to just be able to go to an agenda heading, agenda heading for the agenda and minutes heading for the minutes, to be able to find those easily. Thank you.
Thanks.
George Tefner, 109 South 4th. I think that the complaint of the people in town is that the public works director, along with the town manager, is pushing these contracts in front of you people to sign like he tried to do last week. There was only 4 people here, Mayor. That's been 6 times now we've only had 4 people here to attend town business. And they're pushing contracts in front of you without the total figures. You people did not see the figures on the south end of town when we made a bike path and a walkway down there from Douglas Street to Barkus Lane. Barkus Railroad track, make it more clear. 23 feet wide at this end and 22 feet wide at the other end. People did not want this, and you people didn't comprehend that. That project cost over $850,000. Time the contract was let for $521,000. You figure your core drilling, you figure your surveying, you figure your engineering. Give me the total cost, what that Mickey Mouse cost us down there. We want something done about it, and we're not hearing nothing from you that it's going to be corrected. Oh, it looks nice. Well, it might look nice to you, or you, but you live over there. We live here, look at it every day. We know what we expected out of that road when it began. For $850,000, we expected a good road. Well, I'm sorry, we didn't get it. Same project on Coal Creek. I said, do it right. Same engineer that engineered that down there, who's no longer with the city at the present time. Look what we got out here. We've repaired that road. Just about every year, we've repaired concrete. That's why people are disgusted, is because you're not following through and see things are done right. And they're putting the contracts, like tonight, number 8, raise your hands and sign it. I'm not satisfied who's doing what of this. I have talked to people in the higher ups, and they don't even know nothing's going on about it. I'm serious. Who's doing our parking area? What's the lights cost? How much of parking? Is the county doing that for their open space? Or is the city? I want to know what the total cost is going to be to this town. Not saying $426,000 is going to be yet. What's the town paying? Period.
Okay, we'll have to wait for that agenda
That's
item.
why people are unhappy. I get a lot of calls, I really do. And they're unhappy because the town board's not following through and doing things right for the original town. We don't want them doing any more engineering down here for our streets in this town, I'll tell you that right now. We voted on pans. People wanted pans, and what have we got now? We got curb, we got it. Because we got a public works director, town manager. They didn't look back what we want. They're not looking back now.
Okay. Additional public comment on agenda items or non-agenda, consent agenda or non-agenda items? Seeing none, I'll move to item number 6, consent agenda. And on the consent agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes for May 26, 2009 and June 8, 2009 meetings, acceptance of the minutes from the Joint Open Space Advisory Committee and the Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails Advisory Committee meetings, approval of a liquor license renewal for Buffalo Wild Wings Restaurant, adoption of a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement for the updated hazardous materials management site, and adoption of a resolution reappointing members of the Open Space Advisory Committee, the Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails Advisory Committee, and the Recycling and Conservation Advisory Committees. With that, I'll entertain a motion by Trustee Sorelli, second by Trustee D'Souza. Discussion regarding this?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Go ahead.
Who's first?
No,
Okay, Trustee Gerber.
no, just, I wasn't here for the June 8th, the minutes.
I wasn't here for the June 8th.
And Trustee Williams?
I just wanted to know, as far as the hazardous materials management program, do we have that on the town website for people to look at and know about? And also, can businesses participate as well as residents?
So, well, Mr. Randall, if you'd like to respond.
Here's your response.
There you go.
Mr. Magley?
We don't have a link specifically to this program.
And I forget, who are you again?
I'm sorry, Matt Magley, town staff.
Oh, that's right, yes.
We have a link to, just a general link to Boulder County, but we
Yeah,
can put
I
a
noticed
link
that.
to this program.
It would be great, because I'm sure most people don't know about it.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
And then, can businesses participate as well as residents that,
Not at this moment. With the new facility, they plan on opening it up to businesses.
and then that would require, or they wouldn't have further costs, correct? A business.
The businesses would,
They would even in the future?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
But currently, businesses can't even add an extra cost?
they can.
Okay.
It's the small volume generator. There's
Right,
some
yeah.
terminology to what that is, I
It's
forget.
one of the reasons for the new facility, so they can open it up more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments about the consent agenda? Seeing none. Phyllis?
Gregoris?
Yes.
Knuckle?
Yes.
Rosenthal?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes?
Sorelli?
Yes.
D'Souza?
Yes.
Right, that motion carries. Thank you very much. Let's move to item number 7, reports, questions, and issues. Phyllis, anything from you?
One of the, I think somebody mentioned that our meeting in 2 weeks, our meeting is not in 2 weeks, it's in 3
In
weeks.
3 weeks, right.
Right.
July 13th.
Okay. Ms. Carberry?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Mr. Randall?
We didn't have an opportunity to review the next agenda at the workshop session, so very briefly, we do anticipate that you'll have a contract. We're currently out for bid, but it's for finishing work at the mine camp house for the basement. There's a $100,000 budget allowance for interior improvements to turn the improved structure into a museum. This will be the first of what we expect to be many small contracts. And this is actually doing the storage equipment and the again, for the basement in there. And it'll be the first, again, of many of the improvements that you'll see. We do anticipate having completed, you received 2 pieces of correspondence today from Boulder County regarding the amended intergovernmental agreement regarding the McCaslin-Colton interchange, or intersection. Knew I was going to make that mistake. And then the 3 items that we tentatively have on your workshop for the next meeting, the interchange landscaping, a conceptual plan, actually 3 conceptual plans, something that the board has been looking for over a year, for improved landscaping at the McCaslin interchange. A conceptual plan for what I describe as Community Park East, which has been under review and development by ProStack since you approved their work program back in January. Actually, this is the area of the community park east of Rock Creek Parkway between Horizons and Public Works sewer treatment plant. They've been looking at that as the area for those expanded amenities that they've recently been talking about: BMX bike, dog park, and disc golf. But continuing it because of the natural pedestrian access that sits under Rock Creek Parkway. So that's why I've come to calling it Community Park East. And then there's also going to be an update on the 2010 regional event that you heard about, I think, 4 or 6 weeks ago, which was the reinstitution of the Morgul Bismarck and turning into a new community and a regional draw event for 2010. So those are your items on the next agenda. A couple of items from Digest. We've given you a lengthy update on the supplemental budget that we instituted back on or about the 1st of March as a result of anticipated reductions in many of the town's revenue streams. We gave you both most recent month as well as year-to-date reports on sales tax, vehicle use, also water sales, building permits, interest income, and the like. As a result of that cumulative review, despite the fact that general fund expenses are a little over 13% under budget year-to-date, revenues are still down. So we had a bad month in sales tax, we had a bad month in vehicles, we had a bad month in water sales. So as a result, Mr. Millis and I came to the conclusion that we should maintain all of the things that we'd incorporated in the supplemental budget of March 1st. The hiring freeze, the reduction in overtime, the deferral of the capital projects, and all of those other things that you saw on that list, which effectively reduced cumulative town expenditures by about $500,000. We will continue to review and report on it monthly, but at this juncture, we just didn't think it would be prudent to change. The only other item I believe I had was an informational item reminding everybody that Calmonte models are part of the parade of homes. So if you see the level of traffic and activity over there on weekends, it's because we haven't seen that activity since Rock Creek well over a decade ago. But that's what was driving it, and that'll be going on every weekend through July 5th. That's all I had.
Thank you very much. Trustee Williams?
First of all, I'm not going to be here July 13th. Just wanted to get that up front. And I know that the town manager already talked about the concept plan for the park, for the bike track, the disc golf course, and the dog park. But I attended an OSAC joint ProStack meeting, and we definitely had some concerns with that park. We weren't too pleased with it going through and actually going directly through the creek. Would like to see more protection on that before, especially in the buffer, or even just not even going through it, going below it. And then some of the costs seemed rather high in, I think it was the dog park and the disc golf that kind of threw us off as to how high the prices were. Hopefully that will be resolved. And then there could be a possibility of a GOCO grant that could be awarded to the town, but there's no possibility of knowing whether it will happen or not. So that made us concerned as to going with the high level of service and the low level of service with the concept plans. Then I also want to note that the town blogs have been constructed on the town website. They're sectioned into the town board, town manager, and town staff. And I noticed that town staff already has information on their blog, so you might want to visit it. It's one of the tabs on the town website that you will see. It's just beginning, it's just in the process, so it's kind of under construction. But I'm very pleased to see it. Also, I have a couple of things that I would like to see happen in the future, and just kind of wanted to throw them out. First of all, I think we've all talked about, we'd like to see the work session televised with minutes recorded. Also, this, I know it's been done in the past, I don't know how far in the past it was done, but having the work session done in a round table format instead of at a panel would be a lot more resident-friendly. That's my thoughts on that. And also, I've brought this up before, I'd like to see kind of a drop-in coffee open house once a month or any amount per month with several trustees, the town manager, the mayor, whoever can attend, just for meeting with residents to talk informally. Once a month would be great. I don't know if it catches on, it would be great if we could do it more often. And we didn't have to have, everybody attend as far as everyone on the board, but, one or two coming, or three, or whatever amount would be great. I just think that would have more interaction with the public and the residents and get more feedback from people and make people feel a little bit more welcome. So that's something I've brought up before, and those are just things I hope we can talk about in the future.
So just in terms of the work session, I think that it would be, well, we need to, before we make decisions without having information, we should probably get information. I don't think it would be difficult to televise the work session and or web stream it, but we should probably understand if that's doable. Minutes were brought up, and we should talk about it a little bit. I don't think I'd want to put a big onus on Phyllis of having 14 pages of minutes like we do for town board meetings, but maybe a synopsis of what happened there might make sense within a one-page format. So that's something that we should look into a little bit more, just so we understand what we're telling people that they need to do. But maybe that could come back at our next meeting, which is in 3 weeks. Anybody thoughts about that?
Well, I agree. I mean, I'd like to see that, so let's see what the impacts are to staff. Hopefully we can get that done. Regarding the blog, so just a note, I have my own personal blog. It's trusteerosenfeld.com. It's separate from what the town is doing, and I think, the board hasn't received any instructions or on how to, post through the town. So I'm really excited about this. I think this is something that I brought up. And so I'm glad that we're doing it. But in the meantime, my blog is still separate. And so anybody who's watching, check it out, trusteerosenfeld.com. And in the meantime, or hopefully in a couple weeks, we'll be able to consolidate that within the town and give everyone a really good place to go for information. And, as a follow-up to that, and, these are a lot of off conversations, but I think it's worth bringing up. Just, I think there's lots of opportunity to improve our website and to improve our web presence. The streaming is something that I brought up 2 years ago, I think, and so I think it happened earlier this year or last year.
I want to say late last year, last quarter.
And I think a lot of people may not know about it. So I'd like to find ways to better communicate what we're planning, better gather resident input, and filter that through. So maybe it might be through, creation of a subcommittee or just an informal working group that has, resident input and board input on ways that we can kind of improve our web storefront, so to speak, and really make that the go-to place for, relevant, timely information.
Okay. Trustee Ciarelli?
And I'd like to weigh in on supporting, I'm a little wary about the minutes too, but the idea of recording, televising, and roundtabling the work sessions. I've been on the other side of the table on work sessions, and it doesn't work well if you have to come up to the podium and talk. And you don't get the give and take kind of thing. And some people don't like to come up to a podium and talk, and I understand that. So I applaud that. We'll need a lot of remedial training for blogs for certain of us. But one of the key things that I think we're all touching upon that I think we become readily apparent to all of us in the past year, at least since I've been involved, to me, and maybe longer to those of you who've been on longer, is the process of how we do things when we're considering a public project rather than a project that has a laid-out process for it already that includes public hearings and so forth. So the things like the roundabout, the land swap, other things that we think about we want to do, and starts informally, and improving how we communicate those and get that out to the public, and get input back from the public, and also get input from our, I think we're pretty good at getting ProStack and OSAC involved in their things. I think we could expand our inclusion of planning commission on just about anything, and where we're going to plan to do a project. I think we should do that, even though we talk in terms of major projects. It appears that I don't always know what's a major project, and I think any of us know what's a major project is in every instance as far as how the community is going to react. And so the more input we get, the better we are before we shrug our shoulders and say, sounds good, and find ourselves down a path. So I support all of these efforts in proceeding in those regards, including what we talked about with possible education process in the work session just passed.
So just, if we can put that on an agenda, as an agenda item to talk about at the next meeting.
I've got a list of about six or eight things that have come up tonight regarding communications.
Yeah, so my only thoughts about the roundtable, so I agree, we've had roundtables in the past, but it's might be mutually exclusive in terms of televising it then, because that would be very difficult then to televise the roundtable, so we just need to understand how that would occur, so before we just, because it might prevent one aspect of the improvement for the other improvement to occur, so.
And on that, I like when we used to have it there, but I think there was, part of the problem was when we came up with doing presentations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that part of what?
Yeah. So we just need
one of
to.
the reasons we switched, I think.
So we just need to understand. So they're interesting thoughts. Anything else, Trustee Williams?
No, I didn't know we were still on me.
Yeah, still on you. Yeah, there.
You took all the wind out of all of our sails.
Sorry about that.
Trustee Gregorus.
Nothing to report.
Trustee D'Souza.
I guess the only thing that we had to work session on this part of this earlier is just that there's the ongoing FEIS on US 36, and that the town is still looking into improving traffic that currently turns left to go north into Boulder, and we're still looking into that, and hopefully I'll, along with Trustee Rosenfeld, get some more answers with CDOT and URL, whether or not there's still hope to get that loop in there instead of having a double left turn lane. So, but I'd be happy to hear any thoughts that residents have on that as well.
Great. Let's see, I had a couple of things. We talked about it earlier, as you mentioned, but went to the Preferred Alternative Committee EIS meeting today in Westminster, and so they're, just in terms of timelines, the final environmental impact statement is hopefully out in August. There was some talk about pushing that into September, but that would interfere with any Tiger grant applications, so they're trying to stay on the August timeline. That should be available for, actually, this is another web thing. We need to have probably have an item on our website where people could be directed to give comments about the EIS that would be doable through the EIS process, and so that should be coming around in August, and then record of decision several months down the road after that. So that's the only meetings I had. We had I think I sent out an email about alleys in the original town. There was some concern about how one particular alley was draining, and I thought it would make sense to talk about that in more of a global perspective. So I think we have time to talk about that, but I think we should understand what we're doing in original town and see if either drainage needs to be changed or talk about paving. You know, it raises a whole big issue that we need to understand before we go down that route. So I'm thinking that this is several months down the line, but would like to put it on the agenda, or at least on the radar screen for people.
Thank you for mentioning that. That was something I forgot to bring up.
Sure.
Curious.
Had a very good electronic dialogue with Mr. McCool's wife, and I appreciate it immensely, just talking about Town 9, what we're doing out there. And so, you know, I think ProStack has weighed in on what they would like to see eventually. There was some interest in having a ball field there, and we had this conversation at the last meeting. So I just wanted to say I appreciated that immensely. It was very helpful. And, you know, I think probably the best process, though, honestly, is to go through ProStack and have that recommended to the board somehow, as opposed to stepping on ProStack's feet about recommendations about ballparks. So that would be my recommendation. And then we have one ProStack member that we need to appoint eventually. So I was going to recommend publicizing that and request applications and then an interview process. I think that's what we've done in the past. So unless anybody has any particular concern about that. Okay, that's all I had. Trustee Rosenfeld.
I don't have anything to add at the moment.
Okay, Trustee Sorelli.
I have nothing more to add to what everybody else has said. I didn't do anything except with Trustee D'Souza, and so she accurately discussed that too.
Okay, great. With that, let's move on to item number 8, unless there's something.
comment? There.
Sure.
Just so, two things. On the blogs and the coffees and the surveys, certainly I support any means of communication between the town management and the residents. But when it comes down to there needing to be a vehicle for residents to communicate with all of you at once, I would like, I don't know, I may be ignorant, but if I voice my dissatisfaction with an item in Lisa's surveys or on your blog or at a coffee, you don't all hear. Thereby, you don't all have this composite picture. And I would really encourage there to be one spot on the web that residents are told to voice your opinion officially so that it gets out to everybody. Go to X spot.
I agree. Yep.
The other thing is on the minutes for the work sessions. As a person who has had to use those minutes in the past 6 months quite frequently, I do really recommend a print medium that is somewhat comprehensive, perhaps not totally comprehensive, because of the ease of doing that and the cost of doing that. If you do an FIOIA request on minutes, it's 25 cents a page. If you do it on a video, correct me, Phyllis, $25 per video?
No, I
If-
think it's 10.
Huh?
I think it's 10.
10, but you get the point of magnitude. Also, I can scan the printed copy and thereby have sort of an essence, whereas I've got to dig up and wait for the video to come. So I do believe for work sessions, it is important to have a hard copy. Thanks.
Thanks. I think that we're done with that. So moving on, we have item number 8, adoption of a resolution approving a contract with North Star Concrete, Inc. for the McCaslin Boulevard, Colton Road intersection roundabout project. Mr. Rendell.
As the board knows, this project, this agenda item was originally presented 2 weeks ago. The board tabled action on it at that time to tonight's meeting, both for 2 reasons. One, because there were only 4 board members present, and there were also some questions. Mr. Hawkes's report, which you have in front of you, attempted to address the questions as best we could. The first was getting cost estimates for the items that were not included within the original base bid, which included specifically cost estimates for street lighting, for a pedestrian crossing, signal crossing, much like we have on Rock Creek Parkway and on 88th. the cost of installing illuminated signs, and then the prospect for getting a formal amendment with Boulder County regarding the IGA. As the report indicates, we've nailed down cost estimates from Excel with an estimated cost of $65,000 for the street lighting, a $15,000 cost estimate for the illuminated street signs, and a $50,000 cost estimate for the flashing pedestrian crossing signs. You've also received 2 communications today from Boulder County Transportation Department that says, in effect, that administratively they're prepared to amend the existing intergovernmental agreement from the $400,000 contribution to $430,000, which covers the baseline cost of the contract that's before you tonight. They've also indicated their willingness to enter into another amended intergovernmental agreement, adding an additional $120,000 to the costs to be incurred by the town, reimbursing the costs of the town for street lighting and the pedestrian crossings. The only element that they did not feel was part of the prototypical intersection improvement that they were interested in participating in was the $15,000 set aside for illuminated street signs. So if the town were to proceed with all of those costs, and if the cost estimates were to come in as anticipated based on our conversations with both Excel and others, those costs would be reimbursable by Boulder County to the town. The only caveat there is the $430,000 will be available immediately. As soon as we pay a bill, we'll be reimbursed. The new items, the $120,000 for street lighting and for pedestrian crossings, because they have a certain amount that they generate through this special transportation tax, they would agree to reimburse the town between now and 2014.
So just so it's clear about this one particular issue, because it's been, highlighted, the town is responsible for the things that they feel are upgrades, and the only upgrade that I'm aware of then is the
illuminated street sign. Correct.
And that we would have to front money for some overages that we would be reimbursed in future years.
Correct.
To the tune of
up to $120,000.
Hopefully significantly less than that, depending on how much these things cost.
If the pedestrian crossing signs cost us $50, and if the street lighting costs us $65, that's actually $115. They've given us a fudge or an allowance factor there of $120, and they're willing to cover all of that.
Okay.
Now, again, you saw the communications that we received from Director of Transportation only today. You got the letter tonight. That's why we don't have the intergovernmental agreement, though we do have their commitment to pursue it. I've also had conversations with Boulder County Commissioner staff. They don't see any issues that the Boulder County Board of Commissioners will also approve this based on the recommendation of the Transportation Department. So based on all of those conversations, I'm very comfortable proceeding. One of our projects or targets was, this was a construction project that we wanted to see get done during the summer months. And
okay. Thanks. Questions from the board? Trustee Williams.
I'm curious about the, is it installment payments that they would be reimbursing us?
Yes.
Through 2009 to...
yes, so conceivably $30,000 a year for each of the next 4 years.
Okay. And the street lighting and the pedestrian crossing signals, that's something we are proposing in the design plan, correct?
We had originally included in the bid, not the pedestrian crossings, because there had been no discussion about pedestrian crossings during the preliminary plan reviews. We were always going to have street lights, 8 pole-mounted, Cobra-armed street lights at that particular intersection. When we opened the bids, the cost element for that particular was outrageous, because they're going to hire an independent contractor to do the electrical work. So we removed that from the base bid because we weren't prepared to pay those costs. When we went directly to Excel and said, this is what we're looking for, this is how many, this is the quantity, and the time frame that we want it done, that's where we got the $65,000 cost estimate. Now, I know you've had some bad experiences, particularly on Coal Creek, where we'd had an estimate of $115,000 to do the decorative lighting that went on Coal Creek. 2 years later, when they actually got around to buying the equipment and making the installation, they presented you a bill more than double that. We obviously got them back down, and they lived with their original quote to us. We won't be entering into that open-ended agreement. We'll be bringing an agreement to you for the purchase of that equipment. We'll have the definitive price. We just don't have the purchase order in front of us today. But we're confident that it's won't exceed $65,000. And again, we have $120,000 from the county to pay for that, and if the board elects to proceed with the installation of the crossing signals. $50,000 is a reasonable estimate. We installed the first two, the one on Rock Creek Parkway and the one on 88th, at a $13,000 per unit price.
Do we know where in the design the pedestrian crossing signals would go?
At the pedestrian crosswalks.
Which is?
It's on your plan.
It's not right in the circle, it's just a little bit above.
Theoretically, it
Just
would be
for the record.
part of the pole. You would push a button that would put lights down.
It's the flashing yellow on the signs, as well as the flashing yellows as you're crossing it, so that you can actually see that it is activated.
And it would be at every single one?
At all four of the legs.
Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. I've got some other questions, but I'll let somebody else speak.
Why I want to,
Proceed to
on the
Susan.
lights, we pull up. Are there currently some street lights out there?
There's one Cobra arm. It sits, don't hold me, 30 or 40 feet off of the pavement.
Right. That's the only one. And it's not something we can reuse, or, that's the only street light, actually.
Right, which is one of the problems, and candidly, it was one of the reasons why we were going to the illuminated street signs as well, because that was probably the worst lit and visible intersection. There's no way of telling with the small metallic sign, even with reflector, to be able to tell that that's Colton when you're north or southbound on McCaslin. Unless you know it's Colton, you don't know it, because there's no way you can see it at night.
Yeah, I think it's a major intersection that needs to be well lit. But the other question I had was on the lit up signs, street signs. So we had some problems with the wind with the ones that we currently had. Are these going to be the exact same? Are these going to be the ones that don't have the aluminum straps? What?
The manufacturer learned about Colorado wind load with some of the ones that we lost, all of which are being replaced under warranty before the question gets asked. And if I remember correctly, these will not swing. They're going to be permanently mounted.
Okay.
It's also been interesting that our first experience with illuminated street signs are actually a cooperative that we have on Tyler and Colton with Broomfield. Blue on one side, green on our side. And we've had no issues with maintenance of those. But we have had issues when you get a little bit further west.
So that's why I know that intersection is going to be kind of very windy. Yeah, really windy. So I just want to make sure that that's something we've looked into. Well, I don't know if anybody else had light questions since we're on there.
Trustee Williams, did you have the other questions you want to follow up
Yeah,
on?
I'm kind of prepared now, but I don't want to hog all the time here, but I want to make sure that there's going to be mountable curbs on the external part of the roundabout, not 6-inch curbs, the roll mount, the rollable mountable curbs.
I believe there's representatives here from MB that can probably respond to it better. I don't believe it's on the outside. Certainly it's on the inside. The concrete paving.
Inside exterior. Would that be what I'm talking about then?
Yes, the apron.
Are you talking about the circle?
The inside of the circle.
That's
Yes.
inside of the circle?
Yes, it is a mountable curb.
Okay. All right, so that's in the plan?
Yes.
And that's designed so that trucks can drive over it if they are larger
Right.
than that. Right.
Okay, because I wanted to make sure that to accommodate larger vehicles, especially the fire trucks, and I know that they commented about that as well. Then the other thing is I just want to clarify that the sidewalks will have ramps on all sides so that bicycles can choose not to go through the roundabout. They can use the path that's on the sidewalk.
So I'm sorry, I see general head shaking in the audience, and just for the record, if you wouldn't mind terribly, just introducing yourself and just so that we have clarity on this issue.
Good evening, Stephen Wilson with NB Consulting, 1444 Wazee Street.
Welcome.
So to your first question, that's correct. The inside of the roundabout, the inside curb is a rollover curb so that trucks and fire trucks can make the turning movement. And then to answer your question, yes, there are curb ramps that connect either side of the sidewalks, so that if a bicyclist chooses, they may get on the sidewalk and then cross with the crosswalks.
Okay, excellent.
You might as well stay there.
Let's see here, and I was concerned about the landscaping in the roundabout. One, I wanted to make sure that there isn't anything that would impede traffic, or sight traffic. And then two, I wanted to make sure that it's very attractive for the neighborhood, so it makes you feel like you're entering, a warm, welcoming neighborhood in a town. So, go ahead.
Yeah, we did take into account the sight triangles so that it wouldn't impede vision across the roundabout. In the center, there's one tree. The tree will have uplights onto that tree. And then surrounding the tree, we have a series of shrubs, which are mostly ninebark, which is a native shrub, and then surrounding that, coneflower and black-eyed Susan. All these, as we were just talking about, the wind is an issue, so we picked plants that are very xeric and can handle the conditions fairly well. And then underneath those will be a rock mulch, so it won't be any fibrous mulch, it'll be rock mulch, with the exception of some of the perennial areas that are very detailed.
Okay. And then one last question, I don't know if you can answer this one, but if there is any bike races that use McCaslin, will the roundabout impede the race?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Jersey Tour de France, they handle the roundabout.
Hey, it's a good
Casual
question.
cyclists.
No question is a dumb
I
question.
think they do the Place de la Concorde, don't they?
That's all cobblestone.
Cobblestone and roundabout. Oh, we have that coming up.
All right. Yeah. All right. I feel very satisfied with my questions and answers that you've given, so thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee D'Souza? Trustee Guerrero? Sure.
In terms of a time frame of completing this project from beginning to end?
The contractor is ready to begin. He's just waiting for a notice to proceed. And then in the schedule, it's just slipping my mind, but in the bid schedule, we do have a date for completion, and then there are penalties if they don't complete by that date. So let me look and see if I can.
Maybe a follow-up question in terms of street closures and detours of traffic. Obviously, McCaslin is a high traffic.
As part of the package, the contractor does have to submit a traffic plan. So the contractor will actually submit a plan that shows what will be closed and when. The trailhead, as a requirement, the trailhead will need to remain open. So they'll have to maneuver that. The staging area for the contract is over in sort of the trailhead type area.
Okay. Still waiting for the date of completion, or more or less? Okay. Scott, do you know?
I've been told, I'm looking for the exact language, that we were expecting the contractor to be completed, even after having deferred this by 2 weeks, by September 30.
30th?
30th.
So before the snow comes?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
That suffice, that's good enough.
That may not be before the snow comes.
Don't know.
So, just to follow up on the road closures then, so you said that there will be a traffic plan submitted, but will there be complete closure at any time from McCaslin, or will they be detoured like it is right now?
I believe it will be detoured, but we'll have to look at the traffic plan. So.
Okay. Sorry, thanks. Trustee D'Souza?
One of the questions that I had, because we've talked about this a lot before, is the contingency amount, and I just want to double check that I'm reading this. It's a 10% contingency amount. Is that in the bid price adjustments? Is that? I'm not sure if I'm reading the contract right. So.
Let me look at the.
Which page are you on?
That's on. It's section 7.07, page 10, I guess. And I don't know if this was discussed at the last meeting.
I'll need to look that up and...
Okay. Well, I didn't know if that was something Scott could answer or not. Just
The 426 is based on our list of work. There's no inflation for cost overruns.
There's not.
No.
So there's not a contingency amount in there for that?
No.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure when they talked about the 125% or the 75%. So,
That's, I think, what's considered a change.
okay. And then the other question I had for the town manager was, you said that it was 400, did you say 440 or 430? Because in here it says 440.
Based on the reports that we'd had from the Boulder County Transportation Department, they have the authority to increase the existing agreement by 10%, from 400 to 440.
Right.
And we'd received indication last week that they had no issue, no problem in doing that last week. So the report that we prepared and distributed to you on Thursday included 440.
Okay.
Today, we got the letter from them that said they're prepared to administratively increase it from 400 to 430.
Okay.
But then add the additional 120 for those two additional work elements.
Okay.
For the lighting and pedestrian.
I just want to make sure that I was doing that. Okay.
Trustee Rosenfeld?
Yeah, let's see, just a couple of questions then. It may be a quick note, this is actually was an interesting, I don't know if that's the right word, point of confusion. I think some people thought the construction that's been happening over the past 2 weeks was the roundabout. And for people watching, if anyone's watching, I thought it would be worth noting exactly what that was first. It wasn't the roundabout, right?
It is not the roundabout. The work that has been underway at that particular intersection for a little over 2 weeks is a single-source, high-pressured gas main that's owned and maintained by Excel that traverses Colton, crosses McCaslin, continues west effectively on our trail, and then services Coors Brewery in Golden.
So we got to keep the beer flowing. Okay.
Gee, I hope my husband didn't have anything to do that. He works there.
So did they come to the town and let you know they're doing that? or-
They came to the town, they needed to get construction permits. We also had to sign off on the modest disruption, both at that major disruption at the intersection, modest disruption on the trail as it continues west, the Fairhay property and the like. So, yes, we signed permits for all of that work in advance.
I think we're the ones who requested the signs to notify people of the...
The flashing message boards that they were up, we were made aware of both the traffic closures, the detours, and the lane reconfigurations, but yes. It has nothing to do with the roundabout. It had to do with line repair being done by Excel from their perspective, a critical customer.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up.
Great
I think
point.
some people were confused. So one thing, actually based on what Trustee D'Souza mentioned in terms of kind of the changes to quantities, I think one of the issues we've had in the past is getting quantities wrong, in terms of what RG Consulting had done to estimate the quantities that we put into the RFPs and that were responding on the bid packages. So are we fairly comfortable or confident with the quantities identified in here in terms of the construction elements?
Yes, we're confident with the quantities, certainly from the plans and then also from field survey. There was field survey that was done as part of our scope of work. And then there's one element that is left as a unit, which is the excavation of the existing asphalt. So we have an assumption in there, the assumption's listed, and then there's a unit price that goes with that, so that if there's more asphalt to excavate, or if there's less, we can adjust that. So that's the one item that, the thickness could vary.
Okay. And that's related to the particular areas where we're going to dig up all the asphalt and relay or cut it out, or is that including the surfacing as well? Just where
Yeah,
you're
those
gonna dig
are
it
the
up?
areas where there'll be removal.
Okay. So I wanted to ask a little bit about the pedestrian lights. So it might be our traffic expert as well, Alex and no. So I'm just going to ask some questions, and you guys can decide who should answer. So first of all, the original design did not include any sort of flashing traffic lights. It was a comment that we received from some folks and talked about in the past. Right, is there a formal proposal that we include traffic lights at this point, or is that still under consideration?
Alex Arenello, town's traffic engineer. The way I haven't been that involved.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say traffic lights, pedestrian caution lights.
The pedestrian crossing, right.
Confusing.
Flashing pedestrian crossing lights.
And, actually, this came up on 88th and Rock Creek, and what we had decided to do at that point is to put conduit under the approaches in case we ever had to do pedestrian flashers or additional pedestrian protection. In terms of the industry and what's happening with roundabouts, this is an issue that's been evolving over time as roundabouts become more popular. And the real issue is really for blind people or people that are disabled, and how do they get across. It's real critical really on multi-lane approaches where you have cars side by side and can blind people hear them and so forth. So that area of pedestrian protection has been studied, and there's real controversy about whether you signalize approaches or put flashes and so forth. So this is an area that's being evolved and being studied throughout the country. In this particular case, in terms of pedestrian volumes, we didn't have very high volumes, and I think what we need to do is to evaluate them in the future, to, as we open the trailhead, get it more popular, take counts, and see if there's a pedestrian issue and whether that warrants, installation of pedestrian flashers. Now, I understand that Boulder County's committed some funds to that, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. I would recommend at this point to at least put the conduit in, so we don't, that's a very cheap type of thing to do right now, in case, so we don't have to tear up the pavement later on, and if we want to do that. I've been working with City of Golden. I think has made some presentations here, and Golden has had roundabouts, 4 roundabouts now for 10 years, and they have not had a pedestrian incident in 10 years, and the volumes are much higher on South Golden Road than on this particular one. They've also just opened up a new roundabout right at the high school where they have significant pedestrian activity. And they just had actually a study, you may have been through there, they've been studying some different techniques of pedestrian protection, and actually it's a study that's part of a national study looking at the blind issue, and whether to put what's called hawk signals or raised pedestrian crossings or flashes. So that's really an issue dealing with the protecting blind people. So that study was underway, and it was done for, 6 months or a year in Golden, and I called Dan Hartman today to see if you have any results, and they don't have, results yet. One issue I would point out, he did say in our observations, when you have these flashes in on these roundabout approaches, they seldom get used because normally you don't have there's plenty of gaps, and why push a button when there's no conflicts? So they get used by about half of the pedestrians that go through the roundabout approaches. So that's an issue. So I don't think when we first started this, whether we thought there was we knew there was a pedestrian issue because we had 2-lane approaches in our original design, so we're worried about that. But now I think we decided to go with 1-lane approaches, which are much simpler. So the long and short of it, to me, I would recommend putting in the conduits now, evaluating it, down the future, take some pedestrian counts, see where the industry is with that type of protection, and make a decision, 2 years from now, whenever those funds become available, to decide whether to put the pedestrian flashers in.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Long answer to it. And then some, yes, thank you.
Okay.
So does this current bid include conduits?
It has to, I think. The current bid does not include conduits, but as Alex mentioned, it is a fairly expensive item, and there are conduit for other items that will be put in across the road. So it'll be a matter of adding a couple more.
Okay. So when you say fairly inexpensive,
I'd hate to give a ballpark, but it's thousands, not tens of thousands.
Okay.
To give a magnitude.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yes, so what I'm hearing then is, the recommendation is to put in conduits and kind of see where that goes, or...
Oh, sorry, that's my recommendation.
I know what you said, I'm just wondering kind of what the town, where town staff is recommending at the moment.
The board asked specifically 2 weeks ago that they wanted a number for not
Right.
the potential future installation. What will it cost to add it now?
Right.
So we've given you the $50,000 number based on our previous vendors for those installations where we have previously installed them.
And so we have
And we have a commitment.
commitment to pay for it, so the question is, we just have to decide, probably this summer, whether or not we want to do it.
The sooner, the better.
Okay, so we should make that a priority.
At a minimum, and that's a great point, if you decide not to proceed with it immediately, at a minimum, we should add the conduit.
Right.
But if you want it, let's do it for the next 60, 90 days while it's under construction, so that when it gets opened, it's fully functioning the way you all wanted it to be.
Can I ask well, I actually have a question. Is that all right if I follow up on the question?
Yeah, absolutely, yes, sure.
I was just wondering, at the 88th roundabout, have we had any, we don't have, do or don't have flashers?
Do
We
not.
don't have flashers there. And have we had any pedestrian incidents there?
Not that I'm aware of. We just gave you a recent accident report showing the volume of activity at various, if you will, hot spots. But I don't believe any of those were pedestrian incidents. We have installed further to the north on 88th,
Flashing.
past Weldona.
Right.
Alex's observation, it's anecdotal, but it's not used very often.
School kids not using those lights, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I have heard from residents that even though they push the button for the flashers, that vehicles don't stop for it. They just completely are oblivious, or they don't care, or I don't know what the deal is, but the majority of the time, they don't stop.
On Rock Creek?
On 88th.
On 88th?
No, they stop in Rock Creek. But I think you're right.
On 88th, they do not. I mean, I've heard from countless people that their children try to cross, and cars are just whizzing by.
So sort of an enforcement issue then, I guess, maybe.
It could be.
The flashing light, I just want to make sure I understand. The flashing lights are the crosswalks at the roundabout?
The flashing lights.
Closer to the bridge.
I just wanted to add one thing on the pedestrian crosswalks. The entry approaches are, a lot safer because you have eye contact with a vehicle that's slowing down. The vehicle has to slow down and yield anyway, so there should be contact. The danger is on the exit from the roundabouts, because you're accelerating out and you're looking the other way, and all of a sudden you're accelerating, you may not see the pedestrian. So it's more critical to have it on the exiting approach rather than on the entering approach.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That makes sense.
And what are the cons on in Golden, the roundabout they have that has a pedestrian crossing signals?
What are the what? Excuse me?
The cons, the pros and cons on that. Have they obviously have a study on it. Have they come up with anything? I mean, is there anything to go on?
Well, we can report. They've been doing this, national study and looking at other measures as well around the country, and they just finished it up, at least the field data, just within the last month, and so they don't have any, definitive results. Certainly, when I get them, I can present them to the board or let the board know. But this is an issue that's being debated around the country, and it's really the disabled issue is, how do disabled people get across, roundabouts? And there was a recommendation to signalize multi-lane approaches. I mean, that could be a recommendation coming down the pike in terms of any new roundabouts or even retrofits. But single-lane approaches don't appear to have that recommendation. But as soon as that study is out, I'll pass that on.
Thanks.
Trustee Rosenfeld?
No, that's all the questions I have, thank you. Trustee Cirilli, any questions?
Yeah, I guess this would be for Alex again. Even without the flashing signals, is there a right-of-way for pedestrians at the crosswalks?
Is there a way to...
Is there a right-of-way for the pedestrians under the law at the crosswalk?
Well, they're treated like any other crosswalk. If they step into it, they have the right-of-way.
It's just how lucky they feel.
Right. And, we've had a good experience in terms of pedestrians with roundabouts, and obviously roundabouts are have a great safety benefit. You're replacing a signal, and the statistics on signals are you're going to have over 60% reduction in accidents and 70% reduction in injury accidents with the roundabout. So they have a stellar safety record, much better with vehicular traffic. We don't have as much data with pedestrians. Bicycles is the one issue where they haven't been definitive. And I think in this case, it's not too bad because it's a single-lane roundabout. They're going to take over a lane, and they're going to take, if it was a multi-lane roundabout and bicycles are trying to get out and so forth, then there's some issues. But with the single-lane roundabout, bicyclists should be, fine going through the roundabout.
So are there cons to having the pedestrian-activated signals?
They're just
Flashers?
Not cons. I mean, they're just expensive, and we really don't know how effective they are because there's not a whole lot at roundabouts. They're being studied now. We don't have a whole lot of data. We did a little data collection ourselves up at Avon, where we had the same issue in Avon. I don't know if you've seen that. They had the flasher on one of the approaches in Avon. We went up and looked at it, and we found that about half of the pedestrians are actually using them. And our interest was, what do they do to traffic with the roundabout? Do they disrupt the traffic? Because now, traffic's slowing up for the pedestrians. So they're just limited experience, and I think more and more we'll find out as we get more experience with them.
Thank you.
Actually, just follow up, because I thought you listed some really important numbers. Can you repeat those again, what the statistical benefits are of adding?
Well, there's a national study that shows that when you convert a signalized intersection to a roundabout, there's a 60% reduction in accidents, and in total accidents, and a 65% reduction in injury accidents. I can tell you in South Golden Road, if you've seen some of the statistics on that, we have a mile-long corridor with 4 roundabouts. If you look at the whole corridor, the injury accidents went down 95%. They had 33 accidents in 3 years, injury accidents in 3 years prior to when they put the roundabouts, and they've had 3 accidents in the 5 years after they put the roundabouts in. So it's a significant reduction in injury accidents, and just as well as with the property damage accidents. And this has been proven throughout the country.
That is a significant number.
So I think the only remaining question I had is, what is the plan then for signs? We haven't, the town, I don't think, has defined whether or not we're going to have the metal things there, or if we're going to have the illuminated signs, because Excel won't put them on the lights themselves, and so what would be the plan then?
The plan is for an independent contractor to install the illuminated street signs that you've seen at all of the other major intersections in town, all of those that are controlled by a street light, on 4 additional poles. But it would be the same triangular green with white lettered sign that you see at Marshall and at Rock Creek and at Colton and at Tyler and at Indiana.
So how many poles are we going to have at each corner then? Two on each corner? Is that the...
Do you know where the 8 streetlight poles are very clearly marked on the plan?
Well, I'd like to review that. You say they're going to be, most of the time, they're on the overhead, the traffic signal poles.
Correct.
So where are you going to mount them?
These are the
I'll need to repeat it. Yeah, I'm just concerned because you're not looking up at a traffic signal. So
Correct.
I need to make sure you're looking, there's specific places you want the signs on the roundabout.
And so just in terms of timing then, it sounds like that I mean, would this be another, we'll put the conduit in, figure out where these things go and what the poles look like, or what would be the strategy?
You will have independent contracts coming forward, one with Excel, one for a competitive bid for the purchase and installation of the four-legged monuments, or not monument signs, illuminated street signs. Those contracts, because of their dollar values, will both be coming back. And if you choose to do the third element, would be the flashing pedestrian crossing signs. Separate contracts to be let.
So we know that the traffic lights are going to go in, right? So we know that, we don't know exactly what they're going to look like, we don't know what the price is, but, we have a pretty good idea where these things are going.
We know where they're going, and there are going to be 8 of them, and yes.
But what we don't know is what the signs are, how high the signs are, what the poles are going to look like, or exactly where those are
Correct.
going.
That we have not designed.
And so we just need, but we don't want to rip up concrete when we decide to put them in, so we'll have some ability to run electrical without ripping up concrete. Is that safe to say?
Well, and if I may, I think, we would probably be able to take a look and figure out an arrangement of all of those types of poles in a sequence and a design that looks attractive, and then we'll allow to plan for the electrical and the future.
Yeah, so that would be there. I mean, I guess my only concern is that I'm thinking that this might start looking like a forest of poles around an intersection, so that's my... But that is something that we can decide down the road, but we'll have the ability to put the poles in when we decide, if and when we decide to do that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we should look at sort of the scale and the repetition to make sure that it doesn't look like we have poles next to poles.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's my only question. Resident thoughts, comments about this issue, or Trustee Williams?
One final question. What is the town's total out-of-pocket costs for the entire job?
Absent any extraordinary cost overruns, unforeseens, whether it's quantities or finding a situation that nobody anticipated through the design process, 0.
And does that include the trailhead construction as well?
No, we're talking about the intersection.
Okay.
The agreement that has been worked out between Boulder County Parks and Open Space Department, not the Department of Transportation, calls for a split on those costs. They're prepared to pay for the trailhead, the restroom, the parking lot. There are some other elements. There are elements that the town, OSAC and POSTAC have been asking and looking to be incorporated in the plan that are not a part of the typical Boulder County open space trailhead, like paved parking versus gravel, signage, certain other aspects that they would be expecting us to do. Another agreement to come forward between the town and the county. Boulder County Parks and Open Space will begin that design after the intersection has been completed. So you'll have another intergovernmental coming forward and talking about the cost allocation. Your multi-year budget includes a $100,000 allowance for town amenities that we would want to see there. Whether you choose to use it, some of it or all of it, still a decision yet to be made. But we've anticipated that the town would be investing about $100,000 in the trailhead itself to make it meet a more suburban standard than the typical Boulder County open space standard.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that entertaining a public comment?
Sylvia Edwards, 1127 Ranway. I'm just a little confused. Is this a done deal? Because some of the things that Trustee Rosenfeld said in his blog, I wasn't sure that it was, but it sounds like it is.
Well, we'll be voting on it tonight.
Okay. Will there be a time for resident feedback on this at all? Or is this it?
This would be the time.
Okay. So,
There's been other meetings beforehand as well on this.
yeah. Okay. It just seems like it's a lot of money for a place where there really wasn't a problem to begin with in my mind. I don't know. That's all.
I have a couple questions. Excuse me, George Cup. Did this board decide that this should be done there and not a mile to the north? Who made this decision this roundabout should be at Colton Road and McCaskill Boulevard? The town board?
As opposed to a mile north towards, I'm sorry.
You mean like at Rock Creek and McCaslin?
And Colton and McCaskill?
No, I'm asking where you mean for it to be, a mile north. You mean
I'm
at...
talking about right out here, where you
here.
got 700 people in this town, you got 300 here, you got 400 up here at Sagamore, you got a shopping center over here, that brings you an income and sales tax. We got a Mickey Mouse out here, and here you don't, they really don't need one up there, and you're forcing it on us. That's a main road, that was made for a main road here years ago, and why you people live in Rock Creek think you need one up there, I have no idea. Because you live in Rock Creek. What about the residents of Superior? I'm talking to you or any of us, about the people that live down here, 300 in this original town, and this Mickey Mouse we got out here. Don't you think it would have been more...
Just so it's clear, so
roundabout out here?
Are you proposing a roundabout at
Because we got the money
Coal
through from the county, that's why. Why ain't the county doing it?
Okay, can I clarify? Are you asking to have a roundabout at Marshall and McCaslin right here?
Instead of over there. Instead, because we got all the Rock Creek residents come down this road and go through town to get over to, not all of them, but quite a few of them, to go over here to this.
Do you mean Coal Creek, or are you talking about Marshall?
Judge, we're trying to understand if you mean
Coal Creek?
Coal Creek. So Coal Creek and McCaslin.
Okay,
And
just want to check.
That's what I'm talking about. That's a Mickey Mouse out there. And you're putting something over there that people really didn't have the time to talk to you people about it. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, a couple questions. How many accidents we had up there? Pedestrian accidents on Colton and where they're putting around about.
All right, so just so that, it's so formality, just
Yeah.
ask the board, so...
Well, I'll ask you then, how many accidents we had?
So I have no idea of how many pedestrian accidents we've actually had up there. I don't
How many
think
car
that they're
accidents
probably...
we had, or whatever, truck accidents?
I don't know if anybody from staff can speak to how many accidents we've had.
We shared the accident histories with the last board meeting, but no, I don't have that
I sure
information in
didn't
front of
catch
me.
it.
Pardon me?
I didn't catch it, sir. Anyway...
You didn't ask the question 2 weeks ago.
I want to explain something to you. You're talking about fire trucks going around this roundabout and a curve like this. Tires have cords in. I'm talking to you especially. You said they could run over the top of them. Let me tell you something. Those tires cost $500 a piece, and you break a cord on the inside of them. I don't care if it's a fire truck. I don't care if it's my semi or my tractor trailer. You go down the road and the cord breaks and you got a flat tire. You people ain't going to pay for it because you got to mount curbs, you got to drive over. That's another thing. Now, what's the width of, I'll ask the board, I'll ask this gentleman, what's the width from the center to the roundabout that they're going to have a mountable curb there? From the mountable curb into the inside of the roundabout?
Basically the lane width from the
landscaping.
apron to the outside curb.
They're, well, from the inside to the landscaping on the inside, you know what I mean? You turn, you go around the roundabout, and from there to there, what is the distance?
I will ask our engineer, because it'd take me a while to look at the drawings, but...
Well, tell me, I'm asking a question.
Okay.
And
What
what
would the-
is the width from there to the outside edge?
The inner curb to the outer curb, the lane width, if you will, in the single-lane roundabout is 18.44 feet.
Wow, good for you.
That's 18-foot.
18.44 feet.
Okay.
That's the inner, that's the turnaround and drive, is that correct, sir? Without going over the mountain curb?
Correct.
18.4?
18.44 is what I'm seeing here on the plan.
And then from there to the inside of where they're...
I believe it's another 6 feet.
6
that
feet.
you can run on if you have to climb the curb. So we're talking 24 feet about.
Which is equivalent to 2 regular lanes of traffic.
Oh.
So that's how much you'll have swing around it if you have to run over the top of it. Something like the one over here on 7th, Road 7.
I don't know where you're referring to.
Off of Baseline Road out there. Road 7 goes east, and Road...
Out in Erie or...
County Road. It's out there on 7.
I'm sure we don't have information about what the size of that is, but...
But it's about 24 feet. That's not very much room, 18.4 feet. you buy a new car.
So is that,
Extraordinarily wide.
I'm asking, or maybe the engineer, so what, do you concur that, I mean, I don't have any distrust of you, but 18.4, does that sound like the right?
Yeah, we have the dimensions right here on the plan.
Okay, great. All right, thanks.
George Kuffner, 7520 West Cold Creek Drive. I think that the town should buy some photo radar gear, mount them on poles or mount them in vans, leave the road the way it is and turn it into a cash cow. We all know that it's a cut through and people drive through here 90 miles an hour. So if we left it the way it was, and we just put up photo radar stuff, and we can mail them the tickets like they do on 470, we wouldn't have to pay the cop to sit there and take hours and hours of writing tickets. We could simply take photographs and send them tickets and cash the checks. And then when we get enough money, we could dig a tunnel or dig a pedestrian pathway under the highway where we couldn't hurt none of our kids or none of our people that are old or slow or whatever. Because I feel that this roundabouts are nice and they slow you down. But if they don't see the poor guy walking, whether the guy's in the crosswalk or out of the crosswalk, he's losing. So it's not a matter whether he was in the crosswalk and it's right or wrong. The pedestrian has very little chance against an automobile. But I think we could write some tickets now. I mean, we could mail tickets till hell won't have us. And it's not really a speed trap. I mean, people are just using it for a shortcut. We could put them on the poles. We could put them in vans. I mean, talk about a revenue maker. I mean, that would catch us up in a hurry. And the best part about it is you wouldn't make very many of your residents mad, because most of the money is going to be coming from the people using it.
People very mad.
You know, I mean, most of the residents in town, very few if at all, they may get one ticket, but then they would surely know that it's there. And we get thousands and thousands of tickets, and who knows how many dollars, guys. It's something to think about.
Okay, thank you. Additional comments?
I'd like to go back to the issue of safety and accidents at that intersection. We're at the tail end of this discussion. It's been going on for more than a year and a half. We've got the right people in the room, and I'd like an answer to the question. What is the incidence of accidents historically at that intersection?
Do you have that in?
I don't have. Alex, do you have information about accidents at that intersection?
Alex Arenello with LSC. The report I had, we looked at a 5-year accident history, and I believe it was through 2004. We had at least 2 accidents, both involving injuries at that intersection. I don't have the data after 2004, but when we had looked at it, back in that time period, we looked at 5 years, we had 2 accidents during that 5-year period, both involving injuries.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? I'm not sure if you would have this information, or Scott might know it. Do you know what the rate of speeding is on that particular section?
No, unfortunately not. I go back to the traffic calming instruments that have already been done. That's why we picked north and southbound McCaslin for the installation of the 2 new flashing speed message boards. It was one of the constant conversations throughout the town center visioning process of what can we do throughout the entire corridor. But no, I couldn't tell you what the incidence of speeding is or the average speed. It is posted coming down the hill and throughout that intersection at 45. It slows down, I believe, to 40 as you crest the hill, as you're getting closer to Key Financial and getting to the intersection. And then it goes back up to 45, and then when you get to the bottom of the hill out here, it's back to 40.
But that is one of the areas targeted to reduce speeds because of at least complaints in that area.
Yeah. The board's discussion for my duration with the town was any and all things we could possibly do, from radar enforcement to physical improvements to how can we tame McCaslin.
Do we know, I'm sorry,
One quick second. Do we know how many accidents in a 5-year period from on McCaslin at 128 to Rock Creek Parkway? Can we get an idea of how many accidents were in that whole section? Corridor.
Your fingers go fast through the...
Would you like me to ask my question while you type? I would contend that 2 accidents in a 5-year period ended 2004 on such a heavily trafficked road is very, very minor. I also would like to express my dissatisfaction that we've been looking at this project since 2008 and not to have updated accident figures for current history is inexcusable. I would contend, I have lived here since that period, having moved here in 2003, that the reason we may not have any accident figures for that period is, in fact, there may not have been any accidents in that period. And without data to dispute that, I think I just might be correct. But
I will disagree with you. The board had asked for that information. There were a number of things that the board had asked for its last meeting, and that information was shared with the board 2 weeks ago. Some of the questions included, what is the traffic accident experience at various locations? It was the interchange, it was Rock Creek and McCaslin, it was McCaslin and Colton, and there were a number of other citations or specific requests that the board had asked for, and they were provided with that information. I don't believe it went all the way to as far south as 128, but the board requested and received it 2 weeks ago. The other accident history that the board had asked for was a pre- and post-accident review at 88th and Rock Creek Parkway. And the board received that information and showed what the accident history had been before the installation of the roundabout and subsequent to the accident of the roundabout, or installation of the roundabout, and recognizing that the construction period was, for the most part, all of 2006. So that information was available. It was shared. I don't have my copy of what was available 2 weeks ago, but the board had asked for it and got it.
Can I ask, when you say
And
that
the
was...
insinuation that data doesn't exist because no accidents have taken place is just wrong.
I just want to double check, when you say that was shared with the board, that was shared at a public meeting?
Yes.
So it was shared with the public, not just the board, is that correct? Okay. I wasn't at that meeting, so I just want to make sure.
I believe it was Trustee Skumatz that had asked for the information, but it was shared as part of your packet at the last meeting.
I would like to contest that I was at that entire meeting 2 weeks ago, and I heard no such data. And I would really be interested in that data. I mean, again, we're very far along in this process, and it would seem to me that that would be baseline data that we should have available to us.
Is it in the notes?
I'm Bob McCool, 312 West Coal Creek Drive, Planning Commissioner and member of the OSAC Open Space Advisory Committee. So the one who speaks in favor of the roundabout, because I think what's not being said is that there's a significant change, and I brought this up last time, there's a significant change in that area. The Boulder County Open Space and Town of Superior Open Space are putting a significant regional trailhead at the Colton-McCaslin interchange, and that is the reason that the intersection is being addressed. We have to do something because there is no way to exit from that side of the road. So that's, I don't know why that's not been said yet tonight, but that is what's one of the big reasons that this is being done. I've reviewed the plans, had numerous discussions with the Open Space Advisory Committee and the Planning Commission. I think the roundabout is a good solution. All the statistics that I've heard indicate that it is a great way to slow traffic down and enhance pedestrian safety. I believe that pedestrian traffic in that area is going to increase substantially once that trailhead is built. I would love to see an underpass. I think that would be great. We all would, but it's very, very expensive. And I think this is probably the next best solution. And I still think, and I also think it's better than traffic lights, because you're still dealing with people making right turns, arrows, and everything else that make pedestrian crossings confusing. I do think that pedestrian cross, the lights that we're talking about that are up for discussion, I think they're a good idea. I do think we should put them in. I think we should do everything we can to promote pedestrian safety into that trailhead, because that's the primary reason for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comments? Okay. Board, any more board discussion or questions? Thoughts about it? Trustee D'Souza?
So this is something, McCaslin, that I guess since I've moved here and before I was even on the board, there was a huge discussion about C470 going through and McCaslin Boulevard becoming 4 lanes, and my gosh, that was something that there was a huge amount of public outcry over, not allowing McCaslin to become 4 lanes. And that was one of the first things that I started really looking into what was going on in the town because of that issue. And so I remember it very clearly how upset, I would say the majority of the population, well, at least the people that came out and spoke about it, were against anything that would increase traffic going faster and more traffic going along McCaslin Boulevard. And so I think that's something that for quite a long time now, the different boards that have been through here have been thinking about that issue. How do we, as there was a lot of public outcry, how do we keep that so that that is a smaller, slower traffic moving area through our community? And so we've looked at, I think our town manager has mentioned some of the different things that we've looked at. So before the trailhead, there were the concerns that that would be. We've kept it down to the 2 lanes, and we've looked at different ways of slowing traffic. So aside from any new changes, I think that a roundabout is a good idea there. I don't want to wait until we have a lot more traffic accidents before we say maybe we should do something. We have an opportunity right now where we have Boulder County paying for this. Without some of the additional things, I believe that we said that the cost would be almost 0 for this. So I think to not take the advantage of that opportunity would be a really big mistake. With the trailhead, we are asking a regional draw to have more people come into the area. And I think it's very responsible of us to say, more people come in, look what we have, come to our town, look at this great trailhead, oh, but we're not going to be concerned about your safety at all. So I think with the trailhead, we have even more obligation to look at safety. I've definitely heard George's concerns about, and the fire engine concerns about going through there. I think it is negligible in that sense. I agree with you that you don't want to be going over those curbs all the time, and but I think the amount that is going to reduce accident potential is significant, and I think it's something that we need to do. I like the idea that it's going to be a single lane. And I think I've used that. I've dashed across that road using Colton Trail, and not only driving, trying to get out of there, but running and walking, biking. And every time you do that, you kind of feel like you put your life in your own hands, and it certainly gets my heart rate going just crossing that. So I think this is something that's important to do for this community. I think we have the opportunity now with Boulder County offering to pay what they are. I think there's been a very, very long history here of the public asking us to do something on that particular property. And as far as the flashing lights, I have to agree with Commissioner McCool that I think we probably should. I don't really like them, the looks of them, and, again, whether they're actually make that much difference, but I think probably if we can, anything that has the potential of increasing the safety there is probably a good idea. So that's why I will be voting in favor of this evening.
Okay, thank you. Additional comments or questions? Trustee Sorelli?
Yeah, I just would like to say when each and every time this roundabout has come up, I've supported it. I think roundabouts are a good idea in general for smartly slowing down traffic but not stopping it. I did recently, after hearing concerns, question whether it was a pedestrian issue that we needed to be, maybe should back off from this. However, in hearing Alex and seeing what we can do with the crosswalks particularly. I'm not sure I'm supporting yet the idea of having the pedestrian-initiated flashers or not, because anything that makes the roundabout more confusing, I think, is a problem too. But I certainly support having the conduits put in and seeing if we need them. There's probably a couple of times a day where trail users would want to have them available, and that's during the peak traffic times. So maybe it'd be good to have them, and then hope that people wouldn't use them when they don't need them. But I do support this, and I think I think calming the traffic on McCaslin is a big gain from this. I think it is safer. I don't know the accident statistics, but I'm not sure that it was a statistical count. We do know traffic is going to increase on McCaslin. Knowing that, we already voted, not this particular board, but a board of this town had voted not to increase it to 4 lanes on McCaslin, just to slow it down, and I think this is consistent with that same approach. So I think I support going forward with this. Certainly with the conduit, I'm open on the question of whether to initiate the flashers immediately or not, but I think this can be done safely for pedestrians.
Okay. Additional comments?
I guess I'll jump
Mr.
in.
Rosenfeld?
So I think at the last meeting, you stated all the reasons why you were in favor of it, and I basically said ditto. I don't really have much more to add, but just, given that this has been a big discussion, I'll just reiterate I brought up the issue of the election of 2004, the last meeting as well, and basically, I said the same things you did, Trustee D'Souza. I think, traffic calming on McCaslin has been an issue, trying to keep speeds down, trying to keep it from being 4 lanes and a high-speed throughway has been a big issue, and so we've talked about this for quite a few years now. I'm comfortable that this is, that the idea of, using using techniques to calm McCaslin has been vetted in this town. I think the issue is just, there's differences of opinion of how to do that. But I'm comfortable with everything we've seen, both from a statistical standpoint, just from kind of my knowledge standpoint, after looking at this for a few years, that I believe that it will cause people to, slow down. It will be safer for pedestrians than what's there now. And even safer than having a crosswalk on a regular intersection, because then you're still, trying to cross 2 lanes of, fairly high-speed traffic, and what if someone doesn't stop then, right? And so that's always the issue. Even if you have a crosswalk at a normal intersection, somebody doesn't stop, it's a lot more dangerous than than in a roundabout where somebody is moving much slower and doesn't stop. So, these are all issues. There's differences of opinions. I think we've got enough information coming from a traffic expert that traffic circles are a good way to tame traffic, to slow down cars, to increase pedestrian safety, that I'm comfortable with moving forward. And especially as Planning Commissioner McCool noted, the big reason why we're doing this is because we will have a significant change to that intersection with the new trailhead, the increased traffic, as it becomes a regional draw. And I think this is a great way to improve that intersection at essentially no cost to the town. I'd love to look at intersection improvements here and at Marshall and McCaslin and elsewhere, but we don't have the budget for that, so we have to take things in stride. But as Trustee D'Souza said, this is a golden opportunity to improve an intersection for the next 20 to 30 years. I think we need to take it.
Okay. Additional comments?
Everything has been said. I agree with everything. And I've been in favor of the roundabouts from the very beginning. I'm very comfortable voting in favor of this.
So we need to clear up just one issue, which has to do with the pedestrian flashing. I think as a minimum, would request conduit to be placed, and I assume that would be approved at the staff level as minimum, and then
At that dollar magnitude, definitely, and we've gotten clear direction that at an absolute minimum. My notes were to poll the board whether there was interest in proceeding with because of the county financial participation, whether there was a desire to proceed initially with the installation or just prepare for the potential installation. But that's not a decision that the board needs to make tonight.
My personal preference is to wait and see what happens, but once again, with the conduits in place, we can do it during the construction phase anyway, so. Does anybody have any concern about that? Okay.
I'm in favor of having the pedestrian flashers.
Right away.
Right away, like, right in with the job.
And I know that was Lisa was as well, I think.
Quick question.
Anything for safety.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Well, one thing we have to be careful of, sometimes you think something's going to make things more safe and it doesn't. And so I agree, I just want to be careful because I think that was essentially what
Yeah, that was my
Trustee
point.
Sorelli was saying,
It's not
is
distracting.
putting in flashing lights, on the face of it, you may think it makes things more safe, but maybe it doesn't. So I don't know, I'm not the expert on this. What I wanted to ask our traffic expert, Mr. Arnello, if you had any idea when you would hear anything from Golden. Is it, they're going to spend the next 6 months playing with the data, or is it, we'll
I'm
hear something in a
I'm
month?
thinking 2 or 3 months,
Okay.
so I'd report back by then.
Okay, I think it would be good to at least, maybe if you can try and get a better date on when we'll hear something, and based on that information, then we can decide whether we want to make a decision ahead of or wait for the data.
And I'm involved in the National Roundabout Task Force, and I can poll that committee and see if there's other experience out there on that particular
That'd be a
issue.
great idea.
Well, that sounds doable, since it's probably going to be the end of September anyway.
Yeah. National Roundabout Task Force.
How do you get on that?
Yeah, and, I guess, I'm speaking about flashers now, but, I think that, I think would be good to understand that my concern is that on the Rock Creek Parkway and the flashing, so I think I've told this story before. Here I am, I'm not a huge guy, but not puny, and I'm walking with my Labrador, who's a pretty big dog, and I push on the light, and there's cars coming, and step out, and the cars just go zooming by. So, I'm just worried about the false sense of security that they might provide, so I'd like to understand that a little bit more. With that, if anybody would like to I'd entertain a motion from anybody, if so interested.
I'll make a motion. What's the resolution number?
42.
42, okay. So motion to approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-42, Series 2009, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving a contract with North Star Concrete for the McCaslin Boulevard Colton Road intersection roundabout project with the addition of conduits for flashing lights. Otherwise, in a manner substantially as it exists, or whatever that wording is.
Okay. That's clear for everybody involved? Yep. Motion by Trustee Rosenfeld, is there a second by Trustee, everybody. Officially, Trustee Sorelli. Further discussion about this issue. Phyllis?
But we're not spending any money.
No,
I'm joking.
we're spending money.
I'm joking.
We'll probably be spending money.
Williams?
Yes.
Rosenfeld?
Yes.
Muckle?
Yes?
Gregoris?
Yes.
D'Souza?
Yes.
Sorelli?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That motion carries. So, let's see, just in terms of process, so we'll get some more data back available and make decisions here, hopefully in the not too distant future.
And it is anticipated we'll be bringing back the revised intergovernmental agreement with Boulder County.
Yes.
We will be bringing forward a purchase contract between the town and Excel. And at some point, we would be bringing forward a sign and a plan for illuminated street signage.
Thank you very much. Anything else to come before the board? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.